Day 1 of the Transalp. One real climb today. The Staller Saddle. 7 miles up to 6,800 feet. The border crossing from Austria into Italy. Honestly, I woke up with a cold coming on, so the whole plan was don't be a hero. Just sit at the tempo, keep it easy, let the legs come around. 7 stages this week. You don't win on day 1, but you can absolutely lose it. So today was about staying patient and getting to the finish with something left. Every stage starts the same way. A neutralized rollout before the race actually begins. Today we launched from Lienz, this quite pretty little town they call the Austrian Dolomites, in the middle of the mountains. They split the field into groups A, B, and C, mostly self-selected by some survey they sent before the race and how fast you are and your previous results. I was in the group B, so we kinda rode a few minutes behind group A. And the start is pretty mellow, so you are kind of stopping and go for a bit, sorting yourself out, but honestly, it was completely fine. Once I bridged to a group, I'll settle in. In this particular case, I was sitting around 180 watts, which honestly felt too easy for me. So instead of forcing, I'll take my time, catch my breath, let the heart rate kinda go down. Then I'll kinda surge, keep the tempo high, and bridge across to the next group on the road. Basically, rise and repeat. This is the tail end of the Staller Saddle descent. I haven't set up my Wahoo map page properly, and I lean on that page quite a lot. It shows me the turns coming up and how sharp they are, so I can kinda judge my speed coming in. Without it, it was basically descending blind, so I played it extra safe and probably cost me a few minutes. Lesson learned, first thing I did back at the hotel was set up that for the next day. And the section you're kind of watching right now, it went off without a hitch. The turns were mellow enough for me to read on the fly. I want to show the data a little bit for stage 1. Normal power was 236 watts, and in terms of place, I put like for most of the climb, like 90 minutes, and then in terms of placement, that was 30th place in my age group out of 72, as I expected to be around 50th percentile. It's pretty competitive. Day 2, the Queen stage, the hardest day of the whole race on paper. My AI coach was very blunt about it. Do not push too hard here. There are 4 timed climbs, topped by Pato Gial, a Cat 1, which is 6 miles at over 9%, all the way up to 7,300 feet.
But honestly, the hardest part wasn't the climbing, it was the heat. On the on the way to Falcade, it hit 105 degrees. The good part that final climb wasn't really timed, so I actually stopped for ice cream. Effort-wise, I nailed the plan. Clean day, nothing to report. This stretch was a series of rollers heading towards Passo Diamante, and staying very close to a pace line was a huge advantage, so to kind of keep the average speed high. The problem was it was so pretty out there that I got distracted and let the group drift a little bit, and then I had to kind of power surge to kind of come back close to them again. But it was kind of worth it though. Look at this place.
let's get to the data. Normalized power for the time section was around 216, pretty controlled. And the last part of the day, there's a bunch of stops here. You can see I stopped to get ice cream, I stopped to get water, and the power was pretty mild. You can also see the temperature pretty high at 108. So in terms of placement, I got a little bit better placement today at 28th place. It's still pretty deep field.
Day 3, a short one, just 30 miles. I figured this would be my chance to finally open up a little bit, but my AI coach said no, keep it controlled, so I did. You can see on the screen there, sitting around 230 and 240 watts. A couple of properly steep sections to deal with, but otherwise, honestly a pretty simple day. In and out, legs banked for tomorrow. So I made some pretty bad strategic decision here. As you can kind of see in the map, there's like 2 small climbs before the 2 big ones. And we were like less than 6 miles from the beginning of the race. So everyone's kind of still bunched up together and then going up and then going down here. Some folks were not the fastest in the group. So I kind of lost a lot of time with those 2 climbs. And I guess the lesson for next time, I probably should try to be more deliberate about the placement of the group.
agoniadinho, velho. Dá pra ir?
Okay, so data for day 3, average power for the time section is 230 watts. There was a big gap there, just kind of waiting for everyone to for us to kind of go down together. And then in terms of placement, kind of keeping around the same position, 28th, 30th place.
Day 4, and this was the second hardest stage of the whole race. The organizer actually considered making this the queen stage. The centerpiece was Mount Grappa, a horse category climb, over 90 minutes of straight climbing, nearly 18 miles of it. On top of that, you had Passo Brocon, a Cat 1, and Passo Grobera, a Cat 3. So it was truly a huge day, both in climbing and in mileage. I don't have any footage from the climbs itself. I was really focused on kind of keeping my power steady, especially in Mount Grappa, and I nailed it. 237 watts, rock solid whole day. So I figured document the 8 stations as well. There were usually 2 per stage, and I got into a really good groove with them. I basically opened the caps before the station, and then as I head to the station, I'll find an empty slot right there with ISO. I'll get my auto bottle and fill it without the cap already. This is a guy from Spain that we can kind of cross each other a lot of times. I'll grab the auto bottle. Then I'll kind of drink probably half or more. Refill again. Just get my stuff ready before I leave. Then I'll grab a few waffles right there. I'll grab between 4 to 8, depends on how hungry I am. And I'll just kind of shove them with water. Sometimes it's kind of hard to eat at altitude. We would like 7,000 feet up. So you're kind of grokking for air while you're kind of trying to shove it in. I was slightly faster than this group, but they were going fast enough that I figured it wouldn't be worth passing them. There were cars going both directions, so I thought it was kind of a little bit unsafe if I tried to go faster than them. So I just decided to kind of stay with them. Yeah, I think it was the right decision, especially for this descent. It was fairly fast. now there'll be two mistakes. First is the person in green will be making a sudden movement, and the person in blue is going to be crossing the person's wheel, back wheel, and notice how things go really, really quickly. So the good thing is nothing too bad happened to me or the other guy. It was a pretty slow crash-ish, so both were fine. I guess moving on to the data of the day, the main climb, Grappa, climbed at 238 watts. Fairly well executed from what I wanted to be, and for the first time I could fit onto the first page of the classification. Day 5. The race started with a bunch of rollers before the main climb, which was Mount Grappa again. Second day in a row on this mountain. Except today we went from the Semonzo side, the steeper phase. 12 miles at over 8% gradient. And for the rollers, I knew I had to stay with a group to kind of get a good speed. Basically free speed. In the Grappa itself, I had basically the same power targets of the day before. This part is kind of cool. You kind of see a lot mixed groups, and especially like on steep climbs, you see like the guy pushing their partner up. So you kind of see there. This climb was kind of also brutal. Like I never seen someone pushing the bike on this event. I guess on day 5 everybody's getting tired, and we were hitting like 8 to 12% gradients all the time.
There's more climb to go?
A little bit, yeah. Halfway down.
Oh yeah, it's done.
Just to run back into town. It's a nice flat section here. I was feeling still pretty good. There's always like someone posting at the intersection with flags. Sometimes they will slip up a little bit, but most of the times they were on it. As you can see, there is one right there holding the car for us. Then there was a sharp left and a straight shot to the finish line. The finish line was itself pretty low-key, usually nothing dramatic, but hey, there it is, join the finish. Okay, day 5, data for Mount Grappa from the other side, 241 watts for 1 hour and 49 minutes, and then wait for it. 16th place. I think people started to fade on day 5 as my AI coach predicted. Day 6 was an odd one. The stage had 2 separate time sections. The first ran until mile 42, so the key was to climb very hard the first part, try to find a pace line in the rollers at the top, and then recover as much as I could on the descent and the second climb. As you can see in the second climb, I'm going very, very slow, like 184 watts. I deliberately saved everything, and then heading towards Parso della Vena, the clock starts ticking again, so I had to find a good pace line and basically descend as hard as I could. Very strategic day. Not a lot of people passed me this day on the climb, but this particular guy passed me and he was going just a tiny bit faster than I wanted to be. I figured it would be worth kind of staying on his wheel at 10, 12 miles an hour. You already have some sort of draft advantage. The only downside is he spiked his power too much, so I'm kind of yoing behind him as I kind of keep my power steady. This part was very strategic. We were kind of going through some rollers and everybody was kind of holding on, and it was crucial to kind of the group stay together because this next part was gonna be timed, so you can kind of see everybody sticking together there so you can kind of draft each other. On a terrain like this, that's a massive advantage. It's a way faster as a pack that anyone can kind of push solo.
Okay, in terms of data, yeah, I kind of climbed pretty hard. You can kind of saw in the clip. The first climb I was climbing at 270 for almost an hour, and that kind of, and you can see at the end here we were kind of going on the rollers. The power is very spiky, right? Because you kind of going in the baseline, but normalized power at the end was like 250, but it's very spiky, right? As you can see, the variability was 13%. And in terms of placement, that kind of was a huge payoff. I had very good time there in 15th place of the age group. This photo represents the main social activity of the day. We typically gather at a restaurant around 8-ish. This particular restaurant was in Possagno, and it was 15-minute taxi ride from the hotel. There was one single person in the restaurant that spoke English. I got a Napoli pizza, and they also had mushroom with risotto, polenta appetizer, which was really good. The pasta was also really good. But that was the main social activity of the day. Otherwise, it was just kind of strictly racing or recovery. Last day, there were two strategic parts on this stage. The first one was the flat section, so it was important to get into a good baseline. And then the second part was a single climb. And the plan was pretty that simple, just go hard, leave nothing on the table, and basically wait for the group. I was pretty stoked to be upgraded to Group A on the last day, so that was kind of the cherry on top of the cake. Starting with the A group was a huge advantage. I was able to kind of stay with them on the first descent, on the flat sections, and even in the climb. And this clip now is showing the leaders of the doubles going downhill. This is like a master class of descending. Just look at them descend, it's so fast. This clip's gonna show the end of the last time section of the race. There is an indicator, like a yellow sign on the right side, that basically tells that it's the end of the timekeeping. Otherwise, I was pretty happy to finish the race well, especially the last climb. I also climbed really well, past a lot of people, so I was pretty happy with my result.
Woo! Gravando, hein?
Não sei se é com o boca mal caldo ou se de novo, velho.
Outro que suado de novo, velho.
Já está óculos no rosto, velho.
Caralho, tá ficando alto pra caralho, velho.
And the next clip, it's a pretty sobering part of most of the descents. We usually see ambulances going up or down or even still, and you can see there's a bunch of ambulances and people around a rider. This is not the thing we look for to see, but it was a common scene. The good news is that they usually had a lot of support, so people will be taken care of when they had an accident. And this is the final 500 yards to the finish line in Riva del Garda. Everybody's just celebrating. Enjoy.
Aê, porra!
Finish line just in front of the finish line. Welcome from the US, Marcelo Albuquerque, Sergio Clemente, and from Brazil, Fernando Matos and Eduardo.
And I guess last but not least, last day's data, as the guy mentioned, the flat section was gonna be huge, important to be in drafting, and you can see the power is very spiky there, and the normalized power is 248. Again, like a lot of variability there. And then for the last climb, let's see real quick, I think it was around 258. Yeah, there you go. And I think surprisingly, it was still a short day, but you know, I was placed 6th. I think this was a combination of being very smart in the flat section and basically climbing hard, and people were kind of tired at the end. So pretty excited about the result. Yep.